Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us as my first actual guest of the year, maybe my second guest of the year, I should say. Had to have him come back on. Personal friend of mine. He founded and runs traderschoice.net. He gives away his trading advice for free, his videos. Everything's free on the site, almost everything. I think he had some proprietary plan at trading thing at one time. But anyway, he's Gregory Mannarino at traderschoice.net. Gregory Mannarino, how are you doing?
Doing great, Greg. I'm thrilled to be back.
Happy to have you on.
First interview of the year. Very exciting.
Yes, I had Dee Martino Booth on. I think you and her would agree on a lot. But I want to start with what you told me, which is just stuck with my, when I decided to, that's a great idea. And you said that inflation is going to be the theme of 2018. Could you explain that? Inflation is going to be the theme of 2018.
Exactly. Inflation is going to be the theme of 2018. And how do we know that this is the case? Well, let's look at what happened to the dollar last year. Unless you live under a rock or have no concerns whatsoever and don't look at anything, well, the dollar got melted down last year. And this trajectory has been going on for decades. It's just getting progressively worse. It's going to continue this year as well.
I have the dollar chart right here.
Yeah, there you go. That's what the dollar has done in 1 year. That's ticker UUP, dollar bullish ETF. Doesn't look so bullish to me. And it's that there's no reason why anyone should imagine that we're going to have a stronger dollar here. It's no secret, and you and I, we were talking about this, that President Trump wants that weak dollar. He wants to keep the dollar low in relation to other currencies. Why? Again, it's multifactorial. What has President Trump been talking about? Well, since pretty much the beginning, that we can expect, our economy to improve and the stock market to continue going higher. Well, he's certainly got that wish. Part of the action that we're seeing here in the stock market, we started this year with a record high, and every single day this week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, all records every single day. It's not going to stop. Part of that is the dollar. The dollar being weaker and continuing its downfall, although it's due for a little bit of a bounce because it's gotten hammered over the past couple of weeks. Who knows? It might not bounce, but it really should, at least a little bit here. But the weaker dollar is stock market positive. So you can rest assured, and everyone can rest assured, that is going to be the theme for 2018. The dollar is not going to get stronger here. We are going to see commodity prices rise because of that. We're going to see this. Everything is going to inflate this year, especially the stock market. It's got nowhere to go but higher here for a multitude of reasons.
And let me just interrupt you. You're saying that the stock, because the president wants the dollar lower. He even said it on the campaign trail more than one time. And you're saying that the powers that be, the people in office, would rather see a little inflation than to see things fall out better on its head.
Of course, and there's other reasons why we're going to get inflation here that I don't think many people talk about here. So we're going to get all this repatriation of cash that we've been hearing about. Companies are going to be allowed to bring cash back here. Just pay a fine, a little bit of a fine or a fee, or whatever, however you want to talk about it. Doesn't matter how they earned it. Could have been through exploiting, child labor laws, or who knows. Doesn't matter. All that matters is we get that cash back here. And again, that's going to cause an issue with money velocity. Cash is coming back to our shores. Perhaps people are going to start spending a little bit more as they watch the stock market continue to rise. As the dollar gets lower, money velocity starts to kick up, and all of these extra trillions of dollars in digital form or in bill form are going to start chasing the same amount of goods. There's no way out of it. So this is what we're going to have. It's just so simple. It's just a simple cause and effect. that is going to happen here, and there's no doubt about it. They are going to make sure the dollar stays weak. This repatriation of cash here, what companies end up doing with it, I think personally, because of this whole new tax system here, corporations are going to buy back shares of their own stock. That's going to push the stock market higher. You got a Federal Reserve that is not doing anything. Okay, they're concerned about stock market valuations. We heard from them this week. Their minutes, they actually said this, Greg, and everyone listening. The Federal Reserve is concerned about stock market valuations being a little bit high. They're also concerned about the yield curve, that it's flattening out. That is the spread between the yields and the short end of the curve and the long end. We're seeing a flattening of that curve. The Federal Reserve actually said that they are concerned about a possible yield curve inversion. Hell, I've been talking about that for about 2 years. I've been telling people, watch the bond market. The yield curve keeps flattening out. That is the trajectory. Meanwhile, look at the stock market. Keeps going higher and higher here. Just like Jeffrey Gundlach says, we're whistling right past that graveyard. It's being ignored. There's a euphoria going on here, but it's not going to stop. The Fed is in a very, very bad spot. If they were really concerned about stock market valuations, this is what they're concerned about. That's what they said Wednesday. If they were really concerned about the yield curve flattening out, well, what would they do? Well, they would actually start to meaningfully raise rates, not just the short end of the curve here, because we know they're pinning down the short end of the curve, the federal funds rate, by these incremental, meaningless, oh, we're raising rates. Oh, really? Let's see, 25 basis points to the short end of the curve is doing nothing to the rest of the curve. However, if they were serious, what would they do? They would start normalizing their grossly abnormal balance sheet faster. Oh, they won't do that, because what would that do? Well, it would normalize the yield curve, but it would also put pressure on the stock market, and they cannot allow that to happen. They need and want a melt-up here to occur. President Trump is now talking about Dow 30,000. I'm certain we're going to hit that. These distortions are going to get monumentally worse. Then there's going to be a correction at what we haven't had, Greg, and everyone listening. We haven't had a 5% correction in this market for as long as I can remember, and I study this market every single day of my life 24/7. As a matter of fact, we've made history. We haven't had a 5% correction in a longer period of time ever before. We haven't seen this happen. So you can understand where this is going here. The market, again, is relying on this weaker dollar to move higher. The Federal Reserve being accommodative, all world central banks being accommodative. Meanwhile, they're also saying, oh, we're in recovery here. Everything is doing so great. Really? Then why are you not raising rates? Interesting concept, isn't it? You won't hear this, any of it, on the mainstream channels, Greg. You know that. They can't have some guy out there like me talking about this kind of stuff, because it would kind of maybe throw a monkey wrench into their cheerleading, because that's all that they do. But the fact of the matter is very straightforward. It's very, very simple. The market's right now being used as a political tool. People are distracted by what's going on here. The Federal Reserve is trying to create the wealth effect by reinflating a bubble in housing, by reinflating a bubble in the stock market, getting people to spend cash. They cannot grow out of the hole that they have allowed to manifest itself. It's become malignant, and they know that. So what are they going to do? What are world central banks going to do? Federal Reserve talking about the weaker dollar. We can't grow out of this. So they have to continue to support the market by printing more cash out of thin air, adding it to a digital screen, inflating bubbles worse. The debt bubble and deficits are going to get worse. I mean, there's no way out. So there you go. This is all stock market positive. Distortions getting worse. Valuations getting more distorted than they already are, in the Federal Reserve's own words. Yield curve issues, they're everywhere. But that does not mean that there is not opportunity. And that's why people can't lay down and do nothing and sit there like a deer in the headlights and go, what do I do? Oh, sure. Maybe you could stay in that dollar that's getting killed now for an entire year. Or maybe you can look at alternative ways to protect yourself and grow your wealth. I don't know. The whole system, Greg, is so twisted, so rigged. Every aspect of this market is fake. But again, there lies our strength. If we know this to be true, and it is, I find it, I would be very hard pressed to find one person probably watching this who would disagree that these things are not good, and things are going to normalize at one point. Don't know when. I don't care when. I just want people to understand where we are and think about what they can do to profit from it. Period. That's all I care about. I am a capitalist, and that is it. You know that, Greg. How many times do we talk? Greg, look at this. Watch what's going to happen. You could probably count on one hand, Greg, how many times I've been wrong in all the years I know you. And I think I'm dead on here with my theme for 2018 being inflation. And everything is going to inflate. That includes the market, that includes debt, that includes deficits, that includes distortions, which are going to inflate, get worse, everything, until we hit that moment where this all just smacks up against a wall, because that's coming. Every day we march closer to that point. Well, everyone is euphoric, and I think that's what they're waiting for, Greg, because we've seen this play out before. When everyone is ultra euphoric, I mean, come on, 2008 wasn't that long ago. The dot-com bubble really wasn't that long ago either. I bet you a lot of your listeners here remember that, the euphoria, the mainstream cheerleaders, all the same things going on. But now it's much, much, much worse by exponents. But we're going to hit that same point. There's no doubt about it. And it's going to be interesting, Greg.
Oh, man. Well, everything's going to inflate, I know, but I'll tell you, Greg, you sent me this chart, and you caught this on camera. What is this? This is a big market dump that you sent to me that happened last week at the exact same second for silver and for gold. Yeah, silver and gold. The pattern's exactly the same. They dumped it. What is going to what's going to get past this kind of market manipulation? I mean, this is just fraud. They're just dumping stuff on the market. How are we going to get higher prices with silver and gold when they can do that?
Well, hold that chart up there for a second like you're doing. Let's talk about that for a moment. Let's look at what happened. Some mysterious investor, some trader, some bank decided to dump at the exact same time. That's to the second. Large shares of paper gold and paper silver onto the market
at the exact same time. Come on, tell me. Hey, come on. That's just a coincidence.
Exactly. But look what happened. Within a few minutes, it got bought up by the market. So whoever did that, whatever entity is guilty of doing that, trying to rig the price, they were trying to shake people out. How many times, Greg, have you and I and probably everyone watching this seen this same thing play out over and over again? But this time, it didn't work. They dumped all that onto the market, and the market bought it up right away. So whoever that was that dumped all that onto the market there, not only did they lose money, but they failed to do anything. They couldn't break the market.
So what you're saying is, back to two-shot here. So you're saying is that because of this, that this game of this naked short selling, dumping, and all this market dumping, you're saying that they can't push it down. They're not able to push it down. Everybody's buying it up.
People are buying it up. There's no doubt about it. And we're gonna see that again. That's gonna happen more and more and more to try to shake out weak hands here. But if people are holding the hard asset, the physical thing, look, I don't even touch that. I don't even touch those derivatives myself because they are so fake, so unbelievably rigged that you get action like that. It's just I'm just so happy I was able to catch that. That's from a chart that can be viewed right on my website, traderschoice.net. It's free, everything on there. Just go look at the charts I set up. You can watch the bond market, Bitcoin, gold and silver derivatives, gold and silver themselves, the spot price. It's all there. Now, I just happened to catch that, and I just took a snapshot. I mean, really, coincidence that at the exact same time, to the second, we had big, huge sell-offs, both in the derivatives of gold and silver? Hello?
Are they worried?
This is not coincidence.
Why are they doing that? They're worried. They're worried. They must be worried to do. I mean, listen. Maybe it's happened before, but you catching this, I don't know of anybody who's ever said that they've coordinated to that degree, to the second. I mean, I know they have. I know they sold off gold and silver. I know they've done that. Are they scared? Why are they scared? Why are they desperate to keep the price of spot silver and spot gold capped? Why are they desperate?
Well, I think it's multiple fold here. Number one, by keeping the prices where they are for as long as they possibly can, they're allowing governments mostly and banks to, because it's not, you have to understand, most people don't hold this stuff. When I tell people that I meet that I actually hold gold and physical silver, they look at me like, really? Where do you get that from? How do you do that? They are baffled. The people don't even understand that they can actually go out and buy the bullion. They don't have any clue. So, I mean, these things are not widely held. So who's really buying this stuff, Greg? It's governments, it's banks, it's the rich people, the elite are holding this stuff. So by these entities suppressing these prices of these assets here, it's allowing them to buy these things for, exponentially lower than they will ultimately achieve their price based in U.S. dollars. These are priced in U.S. dollars, which continues to be, decimated here, incinerated, maybe more the word. So there's no doubt about it. And they also do not want gold and silver competing with the dollar. Because if if gold and silver will all of a sudden starting to vault higher, countries are going to want to transact in that. And it would totally potentially destroy the petrodollar. So, they won't look. We fought wars to establish the petrodollar, and we will fight more wars to keep the petrodollar going. If that means another major world war, they'll do that too, and they'll sacrifice your life, my life, and everyone else's life, and their kids' life, just to make sure that happens. They've done it before; they'll do it again. It's a very evil. It's a machine, Greg. It's an evil machine. Unfortunately.
Supposedly, the petro yuan will start the 18th of January. And that is going to, some of my sources say, listen, that right there, gold and silver are going to vault higher because of that trading. Maybe not on that day, but the fix is in. Gold and silver will go up. The dollar will go down. Is that more of the theme of the inflation, the cheaper dollar, that the people are not going to be able to use them as much? I mean, the BRICS countries are having petro yuan coming supposedly the 18th of January. Can you talk about that?
Absolutely, I can talk about that. Well, we've seen this. It's kind of not really a new story, because we already know, it's kind of common knowledge that countries have been operating outside the petrodollar system for quite a while now, for several years, as a matter of fact, transacting outside the. In other words, what people don't understand, Greg, let me put a perspective on this so maybe the new person can understand why this, or how this mechanism works. When a country wishes to buy oil, they have to convert their own currency into dollars first. What does that do? That creates demand, an ever-increasing demand for Federal Reserve notes. Okay? So there's what we're talking about here now. If more countries transact outside of that petrodollar, what is that going to do? The demand for those dollars will drop. Hence, dollar loses value. Exactly. It plays right into what we're talking about. Look, I am so happy, Greg, that we're sitting here talking about this, because nowhere else are they going to find information like this. On the mainstream, it's laughable. It's just too much. I can't even believe that I actually do pay attention to this stuff. I actually use it as a comedy act, I think, for the most part. But it's really true. But that definitely plays into the issues here that the dollar faces. The dollar faces a very challenging future. There's no doubt about it, for multiple reasons. And what does that mean for the average guy or the average girl? It means if you're holding the same amount of cash, let's say if you had $100,000 net worth at the beginning of last year, and you have $100,000 net worth right now, you're actually poorer by a large extent than you were last year, even though you're holding the same amount of dollars, because you've lost purchasing power. People are going to struggle moving forward, no doubt about it, despite the fact that the stock market is going to inflate on the back of everything that we just talked about. Until something acts against the market, Greg, and I don't even know what it can be at this point. The market is being fully supported by central banks, the Federal Reserve. That's what's causing all of this action here. That, you had Federal Reserve officials coming out last week. You had Philadelphia Fed President Patrick Hawker, I think that's his last name, talking about, oh, well, we might not be raising rates like we actually were talking about earlier in the year. It might only be 2 hikes, but then we're going to look at the data. We're going to say, look, it's insane. And last week, we got a jobs number that missed the mark big time. And what did the market do? A new record high. Well, why would that happen? Let's see, because generally when you get bad economic news, the market should react negatively. But no, not here. Why? Well, because they know the Fed's still going to keep the juice going in greater and greater amounts. Forget about a normalization of their balance sheet. You and I, our lifetime will be over because of old age by the time that they normalize their balance sheet. Forget it. It's not going to happen unless they want to melt the market, the stock market. That's the whole thing. One thing is teetering in the other. The debt market is supporting the stock market. And who is supporting the debt market? The Federal Reserve. So their concerns are not real. And I can't even believe that, like on the mainstream, they talk about it like it's okay. Nobody thinks to say, hold on a minute, you're concerned about the yield curve? You're concerned about valuations? Well, then what are you doing about it? How come you're not normalizing rates faster? Why are you unloading your balance sheet to normalize that yield curve? Oh, wait a minute. You can't let that happen because that'll put pressure on the stock market. No, we can't let that happen either. Oh, but we're supposed to be in a recovery globally. Well, why can't world central banks raise rates? Why are they negative in certain parts of the world? Oh, they can't talk about that either because the illusion has to be kept real. So people are marching, Greg, right up against that wall that we've hit every single other time we've had a similar situation like this. But this is the worst of them all.
The yield curve that you're talking about, the 10-year Treasury is a 2.473. 2.473 for 10 years worth of investing. And if you go out another 20 years for your 30-year yield, is 2.80. 2.80. So, Mr. Mannarino, would you like to have another 1/3%? You just have to tie your money up for another 20 years.
Oh, yeah. Where do I sign?
0.33% more money for 20 years more to the future for a 30-year bond. That's what you're talking about, the yield curve flattening. There's no difference between the 10 and the 30, basically.
Exactly. That's why we're getting that yield curve flattening out. But this is what I'm saying. I want people to ponder what I'm about to say. What investor, what institution would be buying a bond here in an environment, let's think about it, where we have a stock market that is vaulting higher? Where would you rather put your cash to work? In the bond market where you're earning nothing, less than the actual rate of inflation, so you're losing purchasing power holding a bond, or maybe in the stock market that is hitting record high after record high after record high. Unless you're something seriously wrong with you, or you're trying to rig something, you would not be buying a bond here. It's pretty straightforward and it's pretty simple. Who's buying all this debt here? It's the world central banks. They have no choice. And how many times have I said this over the years? People that know my work. Like you always say, Greg, you know the truth when you hear it. Can anyone deny that what I just said sounds like truth? Come on now. It's just so simple. But again, if you're looking, people are going to say, okay, well, what do I do? And people are afraid to put money to work here in a market that's not real. And I get that. But your choices are pretty simple. Either you do nothing and you let yourself just, be obliterated from a purchasing power standpoint, or you act. And I think it's pretty simple what people need to do. Use this system, this game against them. That's what I do. That's all I do. You know that, Greg. We almost talk every day, you and I. You know exactly what I'm doing because I tell you. I mean, it's an incredible thing. But I don't know. I think this is opportunity. It's not about gloom. It's not about doom because we're going to hit that wall. There's no doubt about it. The wall is coming. Every day we get closer to that wall. But until that time, we know what we should be doing. Bet against the debt. Become your own central bank. Understand the deficits and the debt are both going to explode higher. World central banks are going to continue to inflate. They're going to kill their currencies. You got to get away from it. This is why we've been seeing the rise of cryptocurrencies, for example. People aren't that stupid. They're looking for other ways to get yield. You can't be in the bond market. What are you going to get there? Stock market may be a nice play if you're using options like me, or if you want to invest for the longer term and be very careful because you know that wall is coming. There's no doubt about it. It's complicated, but if you sit back and you have a strategy and you have a plan, you can make this twisted thing work for you. And that's really what this is all about, in my opinion. Hey, I don't know everything. I just hope it makes sense to people.
Yeah, but own real stuff. Own real stuff. Own real stuff. The petro yuan. If they start trading oil in yuan, and China and India and Russia and all these countries start trading oil, and all of them won't trade oil in yuan, but there'll be enough countries that they won't need those dollars. What happens to the dollars?
Exactly.
Well, no. Explain to us what happens to the dollar.
No, it's not true. But because the demand is going to drop. But what's going to happen is this. It's pretty simple. We've seen this before, not here in the United States, but we've seen it before. Once this, and this is the main issue that I've been talking about for years. Thank you for bringing this up. So you got the demand for the dollar dropping. You got a lot of people stuck with it, watching its value fall. What are they going to do? What would you do? You're going to want to get rid of those dollars, right?
Sell.
You're going to start spending them. You're going to start spending them. And what does that play into? Oh, Greg's theme for 2018, inflation. It's insane. Everywhere you want to look. I don't care where it is. The arrows are pointing towards inflation. So and you're absolutely right earlier. Most people will hear this and think that I'm insane. But, I'm not talking about your watchers, Greg. I'm talking about the people on the mainstream, the ones they pull off the street, they dress these hoes up in suits and they tell them to read a script. I'm talking about those. I'm not talking about people that have a few functioning brain cells because it's just so simple to understand. Cause, effect. Cause, effect. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to understand these concepts. They're very basic. They're very simple. All of this boils down to very straightforward, simple concepts.
I want to bring up this, and I'm going to put it full screen here. It's the executive order that's on whitehouse.gov. It was issued the 21st of December after the House voted. The Senate voted, then sent the bill back to the House. The House voted, the Senate voted, then it sent it back to the House. And the next day he comes up with this executive order blocking the property of persons involved in serious human crimes, abuse, or corruption. Any corruption. I mean, people that do government contracts, people that take bribes, past and former workers, former employees, and former federal officials, and current federal officials. But protect the financial system in the United States. This is in the order. And a national emergency to deal with that threat. Protect the financial system, national emergency. You're not hearing anything about this, Greg. And this is going on now because it's a national emergency. They put this out. It's going on right now, not down the road, not a few months from now. Apparently, Donald Trump is going to take away assets and freeze assets from the bad guys. Is this a wild card that nobody saw coming, that he could confiscate billions, maybe trillions of dollars? I mean, in the order, it says any property. I mean, jets, farmland, stocks, bonds, gold, artwork, diamonds. I mean, they could take anything. They could take anything. Well, if he can confiscate a few $1 trillion or multiple trillions of dollars, people who cheated on government contracts, like Dr. Skidmore said about the missing $21 trillion, you're talking about a massive amount of money that could be also coming back into the system through the confiscation of this with this executive order. Can you not? I mean, what does that do to the whole the deck of cards?
Look, I'm going to fall back on a philosophy that I have, and I tell everyone the same thing. We're living in the now, meaning I trade the market that I have in front of me, not what may happen down the pike here. The only thing I see being confiscated from people is their purchasing power right now. I'm not talking about corporations who are getting monumentally richer. So the confiscation is already happening. It's happening to the people. It's not happening to anybody else at this point. Until it does, which I doubt it will, then I'll worry about it. But I don't see it that way at all. I think I think if I had to say something, it's probably the people are always going to suffer here, Greg. I don't care who's sitting in that White House. I don't care what comes out of their mouths. Because if look about all this cash that's being repatriated, or Donald Trump is allowing these corporations to bring back to our country, not asking even where it came from, just pay a little fine. Like I said earlier, they could have got it from, I don't know, sex trafficking, or from distorting child labor laws or exploiting them. They don't care. If he wants to protect the financial system, why doesn't he protect the American people? Why are he allowing the Federal Reserve to rob everyone blind by not allowing their interest earning accounts to stay ahead of actual inflation? It's all a game. This whole thing is a game from the White House down to the hobo on the street. Nothing is real and nothing is what it seems. That's what I have to say about it. I don't see a damn thing being confiscated except for the purchasing power of the people, and that's really who I care about. And that's why I am out here trying to explain these things to people, to put things into a perspective that you can't look for a savior. You're going to save yourself in this world. I'm not talking about from a religious standpoint. You're not going to be saved. You got to save yourself, because everyone out there has got something against you. And that I don't care what comes out of these politicians' mouth, Greg. It means nothing to me until I see a real effect of the guy or the girl who's going to work 9 to 5 every day, trying to support their family, breaking their rear end just to make ends meet. Then we'll talk about it. Until that point, the only people I see getting hurt here is the people, not the rich, because they're getting richer every day. And this story throughout history, the rich always get richer while the poor get beaten down. And the middle class is still being decimated underneath the policies that are being allowed to run underneath this runaway central bank known as the Federal Reserve, who's going to, I'm telling you, Greg, they're going to lose control of that yield curve. The yield curve, and they're afraid of it. That's what they said last week during the Fed minutes. If it inverts, I don't care what you're going to hear come out of the mouths of some hobo. They're going to pull off the street, throw on a mainstream channel, and tell them to read a script. The fact is, every time this has happened in history, without exception, we've had an economic meltdown. We've had massive amounts of wealth transferred from one group of people to another group of people via the stock market melting down, and people, banks betting against the market and just collecting all that cash legally. That's what's being set up here. It's going to happen. We're marching towards that wall. So that's what I see here. I do not see the average person benefiting from anything unless they act. If they sit there like a deer in the headlights, they're going to get slaughtered one way or the other. If they decide to use this disgusting system to their advantage, that's the only shot they got. And that's my take on it.
Gregory Mannarino, founder of TradersChoice.net. Gregory Mannarino, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. You were fired up today, my friend. Thanks. In other words, the confiscation is really only going to deal with the bad players in that. Maybe we'll get some better government. I mean, maybe some of these weasels, some of these Luciferians will be knocked out of the box. He's certainly cutting off their money, that's for sure.
Greg, I get fired up when I understand that people are hurting, despite what we're hearing from anybody. I want people to understand that they got to look out for themselves, and they can't allow the machine, because that's what this is. It's a machine that is eating them alive, to just do nothing. Do something about it now, and don't worry about when the market is going to crash or when this is going to happen. You trade the market you have. You kind of have to, although you have to think about the future, there's no doubt about it, you also have to understand that you're in the moment, and you have to act in the moment while keeping the future in mind. That's why I say we know it's coming. We know it's coming down the pike. But until that time, We trade what we have. We use the market we have now. We get out of the dollar. We look for hard assets. We bet against the debt. We become our own central bank. You look for opportunity, because if you don't do it, there's going to be other people out there that will. That's it.
Gregory Mannarino, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com. Gregory Mannarino, the founder and the proprietor of TradersChoice.net. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for being on.
Great to be here. Thank you.